Hello and welcome to the Banker's Tech Talk video series, taking the pulse of the fintech community around the world. You can watch all previous episodes on thebanker.com/techtalks. I'm Joy Macknight, managing editor of The Banker, and with me is Mikkel Hippe Brun, Senior Vice President of Asia Pacific, but also co-founder of Tradeshift, which is a fintech that specializes in supply chain payments. Mikkel, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Joy. Really appreciate it.
Okay, how is the Tradeshift model really disrupting supply chain finance?
So the first thing we do is about digitization. We work with multinational companies and we digitize their supply chains. And this is actually not an easy feat. We've been trying to digitize our supply chains for decades. But in the past, we've only managed to sort of digitize the most strategic suppliers. We had a focus on digitizing the entire supply chain and connecting literally every company in the world. That's our vision. So we've made it very, very easy for both on the buyer side and on the supplier side to connect and transact electronically and get transparency in those transactions. So that's the first step. Then you start trading and you have a lot of transparency in what you do. You have insights which goes beyond just exchanging an invoice or a purchase order or a catalog, because you get all these small messages. Your invoice has been approved, it's been booked, okay, you can relax, it will be paid on time. And now you have optionality for the financing, depending on whether you as a buyer have a balance sheet to accelerate payments, or as a supplier or a seller, you want instant payments. So we can sort of combine, mix and match different tools to sort of provide liquidity both on the buyer and the supplier side. So but digitization and compliance and being global, supporting the entire world with compliant invoicing, that's the key.
Okay, and I know that you recently partnered with the Danish Export Credit Agency, EKF. You know, what does that partnership, what do you hope to aim with? What do you hope comes out of that?
So it actually started 2.5 years ago when we focused on cross-border financing for small exporters out of Denmark. Being a small exporter can be really hard because the payment terms, for instance, with buyers in China can be horrific. It may make it impossible to export your goods. So we made a program where we offered instant payments to those suppliers, and we could get the long tail of small suppliers up on this program as well because everything was digitized. And now with the COVID-19 situation, we thought, couldn't we apply this same model in a Danish context? Because we were just seeing a very long and valuable supply chains going up in smoke. And it's really difficult if you're a very specialized supplier to the renewable energy industry. And if you go bankrupt and your production line is taken apart and your employees disappear, then those jobs may not reappear in Denmark. So we felt it was very important to focus on the most valuable supply chains in society. So going to the biggest buyers in Denmark, the 250 biggest buyers, and then asking them to accelerate all of their payments. And we started calculating out, what would the benefit of this program be? And we found out that we could actually accelerate $55 billion over 1 year. And that's just working with the 250 biggest companies. And remember, this is in a small economy. Denmark, we only have 5.8 million inhabitants. So it would have an enormous impact. $55 billion is the same amount as has been given out by government programs under the COVID-19 crisis so far. So, and it's very safe and reliable because you're using the biggest companies in society to get liquidity almost with a shovel into the supply chains. You're hand-holding your most valuable and longest supply chains. So this is the key. And EKF, they provide the guarantee, the state guarantee for these programs. So extremely valuable. We see this as a way to accelerate out of the COVID-19 situation.
But do you think this model could also be exported internationally?
Absolutely. It's so simple because it's just about accelerating payments. The biggest buyers, they have the buying power. So they have, for historic reason, been kind of dictating payment terms with their tier 1 suppliers. It may be 30, 60, 90 days or even longer in some instances. And many of these companies, they actually have the balance sheet to accelerate those payments. But the idea here is that we incentivize the companies to take up some extra liquidity, pay off those invoices, but backed by government. And we're working on a program where government would actually pay the interest for these extra credit facilities, because it's such a small amount. It's about $200 million that would be needed in interest rate payments for accelerating 55 billion over 1 year. So it's so cheap. We're spending taxpayers' money, at an incredible rate now, and we need to get to another situation. We need to be responsible for the next generations. We're kind of spending money that we'll have to pay off in the next decades, and it's not really fair. We need to go to a sustainable model. This is a sustainable recovery model.
Well, thank you so much for your insights, Mikkel.
Thank you.